This week, we're going back in time to talk about how bullying was for us in the 80s and 90s. We'll dive right into it after I hit this music. Joining me this week is actor and comedian Avery Mason. You may have seen him on Power on STARZ Network and The Punisher on Disney Plus. Avery, thanks for coming on today.
Hey Tim, man, thanks for having me, man. What an awesome opportunity, man. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on my podcast as well to spread more awareness about bullying. And I like to dive right into it. Go ahead and share us some insight about what it was like growing up in New York.
Well, I know a lot of your viewers might be shocked to hear this, but I was bullied, and when I tell people that, they kind of like give me a strange look, dude. Because you see me, I'm 6'4", about 255, 260. They're like, whoever bullied you had to be at least 8 feet tall. And I tell people I was not born this height or size. I kind of grew into it. I was the shortest person in my family until about my junior year in high school. So I'm talking shorter than my mom, shorter than both of my sisters. And as a matter of fact, people thought both of them were older than me when it wasn't like that. So I would go to school and I didn't know how to fight. And I wasn't a comedian back then. So, I really didn't have a lot of comebacks for when the kids would mess with me. So I kind of never really spoke up for myself. So the kids would like taunt me mercilessly, call me names. It was one of those things that I don't know. I never really, my mother really didn't want me fighting. And like I said, I didn't know how to fight anyway. So uh, I think a lot of that, and not speaking up for myself, a lot of that is what maybe made me more susceptible to it, if that makes sense to you listeners.
Yeah.
So this continues on from elementary to junior high school. Got worse in junior high school because my mother was one of those mothers. First day of school, she sent you to school like dressed like you're going to a job interview. Like I was just like I was going to church for the first day of school. I had on dress shoes, dress socks, dress pants, a shirt, and a tie, and I'm like, I remember begging my mother. I said, "Mom, please." That first day of school was rough because I went there dressed, and even the teachers were like, you here for a job interview or seventh grade? Like, what are you here for?" Day one, that just the kids, they saw that and it was just downhill from there, dude. And then high school was probably where it ended, for two reasons. One I shared with you earlier was that I got tall. I had my growth spurt, and then I shot up to about 6'4". And the physical bullying, that when that growth spurt happened, the physical bullying immediately stopped. Like everyone was like,
So going back to your elementary days,
"Mhm."
that outfit you wore to school the very first day, was that kind of the like, kickoff point to like, hey, I'm gonna pick on this guy?
Yep, because none of the other kids were dressed like that, and the part of Brooklyn I lived in, it wasn't crazy affluent. Like people didn't have a ton of money, so it was kind of a rough area. And they saw that it just it's it was because the next day I came to school dressed regular. Everyone was like, "Oh, what happened? What happened? Wall Street? You lose your job?" Like it was one of those.
Was it always the same kid picking on you?
No, but it was a bunch of different kids. Um, and when you don't speak up for yourself, when you don't uh, look people in the eye when you're talking to them, it kind of makes people feel like they can take advantage of you because he's not going to speak up. So that's kind of what the problem was. I wasn't very out. I didn't have the kind of voice I have now. I was just very, I didn't know how to speak up or fight back.
And we're roughly the same age. I'm 44, and I looked you up online. You're 44 as well. So we went to
Sir.
school around the exact same time.
So we
And
did
I
80's
remember
babies.
80s, yes. I remember going to school, and if you're getting picked on, it's like just part of life. Like, it's toughening it up. Teachers didn't seem to get worried about it. Just kids being
Yeah,
kids.
yeah, that's true. That's and we grew up in a rough time. People think it's hard now for kids in school, and it is to an extent, but because there's online bullying. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, online bullying, but you could always just turn the laptop off or turn the phone off or just block the person. There was no way to block my bullies. Like I couldn't walk into school and go blocked. Not today, Maurice. Maurice, Maurice was like, I don't care. I'm here every day. So are you. You're getting it. So yeah, we grew up. My teachers, like you said, they some of them were like, oh, it's just kids being kids, toughen you up a little bit. But it gets to a point where it's like you got to come to school every day, like deal with this. kind of get tired of it.
What was the worst part of the day for you in school for the bullying to happen?
Lunchtime, recess,
Yeah,
because the teachers weren't there. You maybe had, I don't know how many. You mentioned to me you came from, or I don't know if you lived in a small town. You came from a smaller town, about
I
fifty
came from
thousand
a small
people.
town. Yeah,
Okay, so the class sizes were, how big was your class?
in elementary, I believe I was in a smaller town. I was in Cokato and Litchfield, Minnesota. We had maybe about 25 kids in the class.
Wow. Do you know how many kids I had in my class on average? 35,
Wow.
and two teachers, the main teacher and the paraprofessional, the assistant teacher. So when lunchtime came, they would send us all down to lunch. Now, mind you, there's a bunch of different classes in this New York City public school, hundreds, maybe thousands of kids in one school, maybe like 1 to 2 thousand. It sounds low, but I'm not too sure of the numbers, but it was just a lot of kids. Imagine 35 kids a class, bunch of different classes. The grades go, we went from kindergarten to sixth grade in my school. So first and second would go down together, third and fourth, and so on and so forth. So many kids, and maybe a handful of teachers around. So there was a lot of space for mischief to like
Mhm.
happen. You know what I mean? Like there was no way those four people were going to see. Even with all those kids, they're not going to see everything. So that was, I hated
Yeah.
lunch. I would try to hide. I would try to like go down and then like kind of go in the bathroom and hide sometimes, but didn't work out so well.
Yeah, I remember recess was pretty intimidating because in Cokato, our school was K through 12, and you'd see the high schoolers. Now in the late 80s, we had like the hard rock, the long hair, and kids would wear the black leather jackets. And to me, that looked scary. That looked scary to me because they had these big stereos, black leather jackets, and they literally hung out in small little gangs. And you didn't want to walk by them because you get picked on. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's funny to hear you say that because I'm thinking like where I'm from in New York, it's going to be different. Like out there, no, you said the exact. It wasn't kids with long jackets in my neighborhood. It was kids with like the 8 ball jackets, the backwards fitted hats, baggy jeans, and like the high top sneakers. They would have the same exact boombox. They weren't playing rock; they were playing rap. They might have been
yeah,
smoking. Well, not in high school, but in the middle school. Actually, no, yeah, some of them would be smoking, but you always knew the vibe of like, oh man, I'm gonna walk past these guys. They're gonna ask me for a quarter. They're gonna ask me for my lunch ticket. Like you just knew you could always get the energy off of them of like, it's about to be a problem. That's crazy to
yeah.
hear that. Wow.
Yeah, I remember being in school, like, they even showed us in the movies, like, with the kids sitting there at the desk dreading for 3 o'clock to come by because I had to walk home, and I'll have to, like, try to, take a different route or try to just go there as fast as I can to
Yeah.
avoid getting picked on, and I remember I had to run into a post office in Cokato because a kid was chasing me on his bike, and the postmaster
Wow.
came out and yelled at him, but this is a small town. Cokato's got, like, 5,000 people in it, and
That's
I just
crazy,
remember
man.
just
It,
being
it's it,
young.
dude, we're so different. You know what I mean? We grew up in different like towns and different experiences, but that you said that happened to me, man. Like so I remember I'm the only boy in my family, okay? Like I told you, don't know how to fight. You see how I getting dressed to school. I remember I was coming home from school one day and like I don't know, I just I was in a good place. I was walking, I was happy, and then like I see this group of boys, like off the distance, was like seven of them, and I can tell like it's going to be a problem because they're like jumping on the back of buses. New York City buses are pretty big. They were jumping in the street and riding the back of them and jumping off at the lights, and then like I could just tell they were just up to no good, bro. You just get the energy because you see they're doing stuff and it's like they're kicking over trash cans. I'm like, this is gonna be a problem. So I try to walk down another street so they don't see me, but one of them saw me as I went down another street and like they all kind of like started running up to me and then like I'm trying to be cool and he puts his hand on my book bag. He's like, "Give me your bag." Think fast. What do you do? I'm looking around, can't fight him. I say, I'm like, okay, okay, no problem. Just give me a second. Let me get my books out and let me get it off. As soon as he took his hand off, man, I ran. New York City is a city of like millions of people, but I swear to God, I turned around, there was nobody on the street. I was like, yo, who can help me? There's nobody there. Like, I run and I mean, these guys are fast. They were like, I mean, the biggest one he must have been like 17, and I was like maybe 13 at the time. But I managed to run far enough, but he still caught up to me. And then right as he was about to grab me, I saw this like guy walking. I'm like, I just ran behind him and said, "Yo, they are trying to rob me." Now, mind you, I'm from New York City. You're from where's it again?
I'm from Mankato, Minnesota.
I'm sure there are people in Mankato, Minnesota who are very friendly. When you walk up to them, you say hello, hi, they may respond hi back. In New York City, that is not the case. When I ran up to this man, he's like, "Yo, whoa, whoa, get away from me." I'm like, "Yo, they're trying to rob me." And then, like, something in my voice, it must have, he could hear how scared I was. So he was like, "Okay, okay, okay." And so he got the boys, like, "Hey, yo, leave him alone. Get out of here." Like, just like, that's crazy that he said it. So he
Yeah.
reminded me of that, dude. I would think it would be better out there, but like, no, it's all the same. Bullying is the same everywhere, dude. That's crazy.
No, there's Minnesota is known for Minnesota nice, but we still got our jerks.
Yeah,
I'm curious, how tall were you? Because you said you were smaller than your mom, and now you're 6'4". How
yeah.
tall were you in elementary on average? I mean,
I
obviously, you grew
was
from kindergarten to 6th grade.
yeah. I was average height in elementary school. Junior high school for us here in New York is like seventh and eighth grade. Some places start at six, so 6 to 8 would be junior high. In junior high, I got a little taller, but my mother is 5'9". I want to say I was 5 foot in high school, 5'6", maybe 5'5". I wasn't, and I was scrawny, kid. I was scrawny. So like
Yeah.
it was, I came from a tall family, but like I said, I was a late bloomer. So yeah, this the physical stuff was bad up until I got my growth spurt, and then just kind of magically disappeared.
So when you said physical, are you getting are kids just pounding you every day, or what's going on? Like, how is this physical stuff happening to you?
Pounding me is crazy. Nah, it was so okay. So where I went to high school, I went to John Dewey High School in Brooklyn, New York, and it's near the projects, New York nicer housing, public housing, kind of rough area called Marlboro Project. Okay, it's called Marlboro. I don't know. You draw the pictures in your head.
Yep.
Um, it's like, how do I describe it? And at that time in the '90s, yeah, it's just, it might have been just like what you see on TV. Honestly, if you were watching shows about New York that time, that was what Marlboro Project was like. It was a rough place. So the kids, my school was right next to those projects. They would come over during recess or at the end of the day and just rob kids, like, beat people up, take their stuff. It happened a lot. It was they would, you tell them no, and they would just, they would jump you and beat you up and take your stuff, and then you'd have to go home and come back the next day and like survive
Yeah.
again. So that's what I mean. That's the physical stuff. Like, get robbed, getting, pushed around.
Going back to the school bowling, you're in New York, or you're in
Yeah,
the Brooklyn, New York. Did the teachers try to
Brooklyn. Yeah.
help
hmm
prevent any of the kids being picked on? Were their hands kinda tied? There's just too many of them, they're outnumbered. Like, what did the school do back then?
My issue is I didn't really speak up enough. Like, when I told the teachers something was going on, they would do something. Okay. But a lot of the times I was afraid there would be worse repercussions if I told the teacher what the bullies were doing or messing with me than if, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I would just kept my mouth shut. Like, I'm going to tell the bully's going to get angry. Oh, you told on him. Now we're going to, you know what I mean? So I didn't always tell. When the teachers would see things, they would do things. But unfortunately, one of the classes I remember, the teacher himself was being bullied and got into a fight with one of the students, which, that was a scary thing to see. Like, this kid, his name is Sean. He was taller, as tall as the teacher, and he something happened, and they started fighting in the school.
Yeah.
It was that's the kind of school I went to. This was a
So, when I
crazy
was in
time, man.
LA,
Crazy.
last weekend, I had to do a speech, and I was talking to, the
hmm
Gen Zs and Alpha generation, so I try to somehow keep it more towards them. I talked about social media, and I had to go all the way back. I was at the gym one day, I was listening to Tupac Changes, and he's talking about, even in the this was
hmm
recorded back in 1992, how bad the world is right now, that they have to do basically they have to do illegal things to survive. And that was like 30 some years ago,
hmm
and we haven't changed. We haven't changed yet.
Yeah, no, I know. I think I know the part you're talking about where he's like, he had to sell dope to the kids. He's like, I got to make a living, but you did it in a sleazy way. Selling dope to the kids. Hey, I got to get paid. He's like, hey, that's just the way it is. Yeah.
We as a
Yeah.
society, we know, like, when your kids graduate high school, you wanna toughen them up. They gotta be tough for the world. But why? Why why are
Yeah.
we okay with that mentality that the world is gonna treat us bad?
I guess it depends on like your upbringing and where you're at. But I also think, dude, honestly, I think times have changed. When you and I were growing up, bullying really wasn't as big a issue, like in terms of the public spotlight that it is now. Like you said, you would, and even I mentioned, you would tell people you were being bullied, and either they would do something about it, or they say, hey, you gotta just
Yeah,
speak up. It's so much more than that, and I'm so happy to see that now things are kind of like, there's stuff on TV about kids not being bullying, people using their words and talking through things. Like, I have a son, and I have anxiety when I think about him going to school and being bullied because he's at the age that I was when I remember my first time being bullied in school, which must have been the second grade. But his school is they do so well in like in making the kids like get to know each other and having kids wait for kids to use their words to speak. So that for you, for me, I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. That was no speaking of words. It was just if a kid got into a fight at my school, you get suspended. They send them home, and that was it. There was no counseling session. There was no they
yeah.
suspend, come back the next day. Oh, you told on me, huh? Pound, 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 pound. It's different now.
What would you like to see, uh, change, like, in schools to help combat bullying more?
I think what I would do to change it, I would have students spend a lot less time on social media. Um, I think it's one of those things where you will look at some stuff, and then people get the wrong idea of what like real life is. So I think that would help with the bullying stuff because I'm trying to the kids of this generation look at what people do online and compare their lives to it. Feel like they have to live a certain way, maybe act a certain way, be a certain way, and I don't think like the Instagrams and the TikToks, really necessarily help. So I would probably say maybe limiting how much time you spend on social media would maybe go a long way to helping people just get back to talking to each other and paying attention to what's going
Yeah.
on in front of them. You know?
I agree, especially on TikTok. Now, I watch a little bit of TikTok, especially at night when I'm bored, but
Mhm.
in my feed, I get these people playing pranks on people at Home Depot, like, they will throw something at them, and they'll cover up,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
kids see that, they don't see that, they don't realize that it could be a stage prank,
yep,
because some of the stuff is like, obviously, the stuff looks staged,
yeah.
because
It's
how do
not
you
the
get good
candid
audio?
camera.
How do you get such good audio, get
Yeah,
good reactions and good timing? How do you get that? But kids don't see that.
yeah.
So they go out and treat other people badly. Well, at least and they may think it's a prank too, but problem is we don't our kid doesn't get it as a prank.
Well, they do it to get views, and I think this is also what goes into what I'm saying. I think it creates a false perception of reality. I don't know if you remember recently there was a story about a YouTuber who got shot. I don't remember what mall it was, but this YouTuber goes around. He's known for playing pranks on people, and he walked up to this guy, and he was I don't know what he was saying to him. He was just being odd, and making that noise in his face. And the guy's like, "Yo, get away from me! I don't know you. Get away from me!" And the YouTuber persisted. The guy took out a gun and shot him. So kids are seeing these kind of things, and like some are impressionable. I'm not saying all. Some are impressionable and kind of do these things they see the YouTubers and the TikTokers do, like you said, and then bring it to school, and it's like that could lead to bullying in a serious way. Oh, it's just all good fun. They were just doing it on TikTok. It's just jokes, but you might really be messing with someone's day. You do some of that. So I don't
Yeah.
know if getting fully getting rid of it, but my first guess would be maybe a little less social media. Go a long
When you were growing up, did you have like a group of friends to kind of, turn to kind of support you?
way. Yeah, actually, you know what? Not really. That's the truth. I didn't have any friends in elementary school. I'm thinking about junior high school and didn't have any friends there either. It was I don't think I really made any friends till I got to high school. So for me, I would just turn to my family, my sisters,
Okay.
really, and my
So
mom.
how did you go from being bullied from school to this great, wonderful actor comedian? How
Oof.
did you get your mindset changed over from being that kid
It
with no confidence to now you're in big time shows?
yeah. I honestly say it takes time, and you got to believe in yourself. I had low self esteem, and I remember once I got my growth spurt, it kind of helped a little bit because then I was like, oh wow, people really aren't messing with me. But I could still be tall and still have the mindset of someone who's 5'5" or shorter. So for me, it was just about gaining my confidence by just talking to people and maybe taking some self defense classes. That helped me too. I learned you know karate. I did some MMA, so it kind of really helped with the confidence of knowing how to handle myself, and then just living life. And you learn you know how to speak up for yourself in situations. When I went to college, I learned a lot about myself and regaining my self esteem and confidence. So that went a long way to help. Oh, so okay, so we'll fast forward. I'm gonna skip a few things
Yeah,
because it's a long story about how I got to acting.
yeah,
But my confidence came from me performing stand-up comedy in front of people. When I was in college, I was a DJ, and I had my own radio show. So I learned how to talk and speak, tell jokes. I would DJ in front of people, tell jokes, and that kind of helped my self-esteem, my self-confidence, talking to parties or crowds of people, whatever. I get my degree, come down to New York City. I start working for Enterprise Rent a Car. Did it for about 7 years, and I was not very happy at that job, and I ended up quitting and I started doing stand up comedy full time, but I wasn't making any money. I had a friend tell me, "Hey, why don't you try background acting and do comedy and then background acting and then make some money?" And that is where I got into acting right at that point.
did like old thoughts and feelings, like for me, especially with public speaking, I'm new to it.
Hmm.
I get super nervous and keep worrying about what other people think of me.
Hmm.
You did stand up comedy, which has got to be one of the hardest things to do because you can, if you suck, you're gonna hear about it.
Usually,
How do
yeah.
you get? Yeah, how do you try to avoid your past experiences and get to that positivity level and not care what people think?
Well, it wasn't easy because for a while when I'd be doing stand up, I'd have hard time making eye contact with people, and that's one of the most important things of doing stand up. The only way I can think to tell you to get over that would be to continue to practice getting up in front of people, because that's the only way you're going to get better at it. My sister, even my wife, are always amazed at like how I can talk to rooms of people. Don't you get nervous? Well, nah, because you do it so much that you kind of become immune to it. Like it doesn't become as much of an issue because you do it so much. Now you just kind of like, all right, I can do this with my eyes closed. And I'd also say practice. Um, Practicing whatever it is you're going to say before you say it a couple times, get it in your system, and then you could do it with your eyes closed, upside down, whatever. You could recite whatever it is that you're trying to say. So that's kind of how I did my stand up. I practice my jokes at home. I go practice them at different mics, and when I would do the shows, muscle memory, and I would just spit it
Yeah.
out. And the people weren't even there. I was just in my bedroom, saying these jokes.
I'm gonna kind of back up here a little bit. Through high school, like when you hit that growth spurt, it took time to build that self esteem up.
Yeah.
What types of so you're doing martial arts,
Yeah.
MMA, any other activities you kind of did to kind of slowly increase your self esteem?
Hmm. Yeah. That's what it was.
As
Like I said, I was 6'4", but I still had the mindset of someone who was 5'5" and not who used to be bullied. So you have to really step outside of yourself. Go get involved. Like I say, karate. Do some sports. I joined the band. It kind of those things kind of build you up and get you out of your
yeah,
shell. At least for me, they did.
I think one good thing that we had, one positive thing that we've had when we were kids is the technology, the iPads. Because if I would have had that iPad, I probably would have joined martial arts because
Oh my god, what did we
I was
have in the
safe at
'80s?
home.
We didn't have the iPad. What was it? I'm trying to remember what it was.
We had Tiger electronic toys. We
That's
had the little
right,
handheld toys.
Tamagotchi. Did you did you ever have a
I never
Tamagotchi?
had that. I never had that.
Yeah, I had the electronic stuff, the digital stuff. I think our generation was the last one to play with toys, honestly, because I remember growing up having like GI Joe action figures and
Yes.
Transformers. My son has no interest in any of those like action figures. He's all about his tablet, Minecraft, Fortnite. So I was into that. I had wrestling
Yeah.
comic books, but these kids like, oh, I got my
Yeah.
iPad.
But I think the key was for you is you stayed active. You weren't in front of like we still had Nintendo back in the 80's.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
weren't in
yeah.
front of that screen playing Nintendo. You're out there, learning new skills, which also
Hmm.
helps grow your confidence up. Was there was there ever a time where you wanted to quit something because it was too hard and your mom said, "Nope, you're gonna keep doing that," or did you always kind of just had that drive, like I'm gonna get better?
I needed motivation. Yeah, I did. There were times when I did want to quit karate because well, I wasn't getting it. But my mother was like, "Hey, for these lessons, you have to go. You say you're gonna do something, you gotta do it."
Avery, any advice for parents with kids with low self esteem who are trying to work on that self confidence issues? Because obviously it takes time.
Yeah.
Any words of advice for those parents on how they can keep their kids motivated?
I'm actually there myself now. That with my son. He has some confidence issues, but what I do, maybe you could try, is sometimes I'll give him tasks that I know he can do. And even if he doesn't do them perfectly, I still praise him. Say, hey man, you did a great job. There's a couple things that we could fix, but man, this is wonderful. You offer praise, you tell him he's doing a great job. And I would also recommend getting your child maybe involved in a sport or extracurricular of some kind that gets them outside the house, gets them around other kids that are kind of in the same mental space. It's very helpful to be around others that you admire. I got my son in basketball right now, and he's playing on a team and he's making friends, and it's really you can see the confidence coming out of him as he's playing on the court. Because when he first started, he didn't know anything about playing basketball,
Yeah.
and he learned how to play with others and on a team, and now he looks forward to it.
Yeah, I 100% agree, especially when you're around with sports. Kids are learning those problem solving skills.
Yep.
They're learning how to work as a team, and they're getting that instant praise from kids their own age instead of parents saying, "Oh, well, I think you did good." That has no worth usually sometimes, especially in front of friends. But when your friends say it to you, that makes a big difference for kids. If people want to follow you, get in touch with you, or see what you're up to, where can they do that?
All your listeners to know, if they wanted to keep up with me and what I'm doing on social media, you can follow me at Avery Mason Official on Instagram, Avery Mason Official on TikTok, The Avery Mason on Twitter, and www.averymasonofficial.com. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and hope to talk to you soon.
Avery, thanks again. And for myself, you can always find us at our very own website, which is www.breakingbullying.com. You can also reach out to us at our email address. If you have a story of your own bullying to share, or for whatever reason you want to get a hold of us, our email address is breakbullyinghere@gmail.com. Now, if you're a victim of bullying and you don't know where to turn, there is an online resources to help you. The first is the government's very own anti-bullying website, and the address is www.stopbullying.gov. And other online resource is www.pacer.org/bullying. Now, if you have had thoughts of suicide or of self-harm, we implore you to stop. Reach out to the National Suicide Hotline. That number is very simple. It's 988. I'm Tim Flynn, and thank you for listening, and we will be back next week to continue the conversation to break the silence on bullying.